Welcome back, Smart Start Radio family. Before we get into our latest amazing episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor. With spectacular hotels, amazing theme parks, and unparalleled entertainment, Universal Orlando Resort offers a meeting destination unlike anything else in the world. How's it going, Smart Start Radio? Once again, in the flesh, digital flesh. I am host one of two, Eming Piansay.
And host two of two, Sara Robertson, here in the radio waves or whatever it is that actually makes sound. I'm actually not sure, but it's a good thing that this has come up because today we're talking about tech.
Yes, and when you say that, I just envisioned a giant satellite sending our voices to alien spaceships and them listening to it be like, what is smart meetings? And can I... Do aliens meet in space? Questions.
Do aliens comprehend human language?
Maybe one day we'll know in this podcast, but not this podcast. Today we're talking with Anca Trifan and Amanda Armstrong, who are literally the best in the biz in terms of AV, AI. They know all the things. Mm-hmm. We really got into the nitty-gritty on this topic, and we really hope that anyone who hosts events or, uses AV, AI in any of capacity really take to heart what they're saying because they drop so much knowledge. I will have to go back and listen to this episode again, even after I edit it, because I know it's going to be a lot and it's beneficial. And I think we don't really give people who work in AV enough their props for what they do in events. Really, they sell it to you. They're like, here's your event, here's the experience, here's the lights, here's the video, here's all the things. And they really highlight that and how important it is. We hope you enjoy it. So
let's dive into it.
Greetings and welcome to Smart Start Radio. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our newest guests on this wonderful episode for Smart Start Radio. Firstly, I want to introduce Amanda Armstrong from Encore and Anca Trifan from Trifan Events. Thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate it. So first off, can you please kind of tell us what you guys do, where you're from, and all the wonderful things that make you you?
Wow. Thank you, Eming. I'm Amanda. Thanks for that wonderful intro. Wonderful things that make me me. Well, I think the first thing that I will say is my passion for live events and experiences. I think I truly believe that it brings people together and makes the world a better place when we interact and connect at events, meetings, trade shows, festivals, all of it. So I think that's a big reason why I've been in this industry for 20 plus years. I was on the customer side for most of it. And then 3 years ago, joined Encore, which is the global event production company that many of our customers use in our 2,100 hotels globally. And we produced about 350,000 events last year. So it's doing passionate work, which I believe in. My role there is actually not in operations. It's in communications. Yeah, I'm over global communications as well as industry relations. And that's how I met you wonderful ladies when we were at an industry event and we started talking about this great podcast and some of the things that your listeners are curious about. So happy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Eming and Sara, for hosting us and sharing the sentiment that Amanda has just voiced. I'm a big fan of the show and of Smart Meetings. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be on it. And as a woman in AV of 20-some years, I feel like I'm sometimes the unicorn. I have started my own production agency 20-something years ago. And when not a lot of women were leading AV production companies or manning them or just being in the space as a force that now I feel more and more of us are. And what brought me here is actually radio. And then by the means of radio, I got into live sound engineering, which many, many moons later helped me to get into different roles, video production being one of them, and then technical event director on the AV production side. And then starting my own podcast, Events my podcast, which has been a platform for me to advocate for women in AV and to create a community because it feels like even now, the balance is not quite there yet. There is a lot of teams that barely employ women in lead technical roles. And I've been a big proponent and advocate, sometimes to my own detriment, speaking out for it and making a point of why diversity and inclusion are important in this space and how creativity and the detail-oriented people that we are and creatives that we are as women, fellow creatives, we can bring so much value to the technical side. So it's hard to be here from AV to AI and adoption and integration. It just made more sense to me to keep going with technology than staying in spot. And I still do a lot of AV production work. I also do a lot of AI speaking and integration and implementation, strategizing with teams on how to do it well. It's my great pleasure to have a conversation about all things AV and AI. I mean, amazing. What can be better than that? Just
nothing, totally. Honestly.
I like that you brought up diversity, equity, and inclusion because our episode that we just dropped in the beginning of May, we spoke to Zoe Moore to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion specifically in the meetings and events world. So if you haven't listened to that, definitely give it a listen.
It's a great episode. It's a great episode.
Thank you.
Good. And she is so wonderful.
No, she is. She's amazing.
We've had the pleasure of her coming inside and Encore and actually speaking to some of our groups about the importance. Yeah, it was one of our big commitments. I mean, and we're not walking away from it. The program's called Encore for All. And we really value diversity, equity, inclusion, but also, Anca, what you said, more women in tech. We want to see more women and make it more accessible. And I'll send you ladies the details, but we have a program called WAVE and it's called Women in an Audiovisual Tech and Event. And it's a recruitment and retention where we recruit them in and then also create a micro community for them to learn.
That's really cool.
And it's really led to an increase year over year, double-digit growth in hiring in female technicians. So Anca,
amazing.
Like we speak the same language and wanting, so don't quiet your voice.
That's awesome.
You should keep speaking up to see more women in audiovisual and production, and we'll get there.
Yeah, and I think it's leaders like you, Amanda, that have the ability to speak to this topic and create opportunities that really kind of make my heart sing, because sometimes, when you're in this spot and have done this work for so long, sometimes it feels like you're speaking to the wall. Nobody's hearing, nobody's doing anything. And you're like, but it's still important. Please listen.
Totally. So if you're listening and you're interested in the WAVE program, we'll definitely link that in the show notes so you have access to look into it. But to start off our discussion, I'm sort of curious. I'm interested in establishing the importance of AV. So what would an event that has no AV whatsoever look like?
I mean, boring, right, Anca? I mean, why?
No one would be there.
No.
I'll be honest. I have been at events where, for some reason, AV got slashed from the budget. And I mean, it was a great event with, some, food, appetizers and drinks and socializing and networking. But I think, even that can be a dry event if you don't have a little bit of music in the background, maybe a quartet playing in a corner or some piped music, right? And this particular event actually also had a programming, but they forgot to really think about the logistical details of how, if you're trying to speak in front of 100 people that are already sort of chit-chatting on the side and you're a soft-spoken person, you're not going to get projected far. And so it was a lot of people, trying to sort of pay attention for a few minutes what exactly was being said from this platform far ahead. And then after a minute or two, people gave up. They're like, I can't hear anything what they're saying. I don't understand exactly what's happening. So I'm just going to go back to, my chit chat. So whatever messaging that was supposed to happen, it never got delivered because there was no amplification of any kind aside from, if we were in some kind of a cathedral where there was like some type of infrastructure, like we've done sound naturally for many, many centuries where, we don't have speakers like we do now and the equipment to support the gear to support the amplification. But this was no cathedral. This was just a regular meeting space with no amplification of any kind. So what does that look like? It's the whatever purpose of that mission, if that was a certain messaging that needed to get out, was lost. We had a great time. Networking, but I have no idea to this day what exactly we were meant to do or what was the purpose in the first place because there was no AV.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point about like AV in particular is like it is everything and it's all these little details that we kind of take for granted, like microphones and those pretty colorful lights that you add your branding to that make your curtains look like they're glowing. Not to mention, the
emotional aspect of lighting as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think one thing to be thinking about is we're not just having events for events' sake. Like, I wish we all had the budget to do that. But I think some of your listeners already have a hard time justifying their current spend. So when you think about, we're going to bring everybody together, you need to have a clear goal of what that is. And you better believe that either putting forward your brand, creating brand loyalty, product awareness, getting even people together on, like your point was a social occasion, you still want a message to be delivered. And so you cannot do that without thinking about all the senses. So when you think, Sara, about kind of the emotional thing that you were talking about, like that is when you make it all play together. You think about all of your senses being activated together, and that actually does something to your brain where it imprints the memory. And that's what we're going for. So when you think, do I really need the microphone? Do I really need the lights? Do I really need the stage? Like you're just cutting away the effectiveness of your message. So you're having a lovely cocktail reception, but nobody knows why they were there, what the message was, who your company is. And so you really lost the opportunity. And so an event without AV, I think, is quite frankly, could be a kind of a waste of money.
Amanda, when I first met you at site a couple months back, we talked for a while, and kind of the whole birth of this episode was basically the question of what do planners need to know before they even sign a contract or even start thinking about the event as a whole. This episode is that brainchild. So to kind of also segue into that a little further, what are some things that you both are seeing that people aren't asking and that they should be asking even before they are pitching, like, I want lights, I want AV, I want all the bells and whistles of this thing to be sparkly and shiny, but what are they not actually asking you?
Well, I'm so glad. One, I'm so grateful for that conversation. I think we were standing in line to get a bus. What a great conversation. Because I think, and you and Sara do a great job of just breaking it down, like, why is this so important? So what and Anca, I want you to weigh in too. What we find is, the questions that often planners don't talk about or think to ask or think to include a production partner in is what the goal of their event is. What are they trying to accomplish? And so when you think about like, what do they not ask? They usually ask for like a gear list. Like, I know I need these things. And then they say, make it your best pricing possible. But yet we don't have a clue on what they're trying to accomplish. And then we get into kind of this, well, if we knew your goals, like, so we kind of put everything in and then it's like, oh my gosh, this quote is so expensive. If we knew your goals and objectives and a budget range, that will be a way faster way to get to, listen, I can't afford $150,000 in AV. I have to be able to accomplish a wow factor or really creative content display or an amazing lighting display, because we had that last year and we don't want to go down in our attendee expectation levels. Like, give us more pieces of your goals and objectives. I think that's something not necessarily that they're not asking, but I think they need to disclose that and then ask your partner, whoever it is, how can you help me accomplish that with my budget? What have you seen in this space? What have people done with my same budget or attendee profile with the same budget? Give me some options give me options and then show them to me. Do you have a render? Do you have a proposal? That'll really fast track us getting to the right price with the right set of equipment and solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons why that happens quite often, at least from my experience, is that many times AV is seen as a means to an end. And it's kind of this necessary evil in the context of, if we're going to have a meeting and if we want our messaging to get out there, then we have to have AV. In my humble opinion, I think AV should be at the table way before you even sign the venue contract, because it will impact your layout, your flow, your power needs, your rigging options, your sidelines, your budget, obviously. And waiting too long to bring in your technical director or production lead of whichever partner you're bringing in is like building in the house and calling the electrician after the drywall's up. AV isn't just the execution. It's actually part of that design. And I see a lot of real budget killers that are so often buried in the fine print. And you want to ask, like what's like from a third party agency, because that's where I come from as far as AV production goes. You want to know like if there's a AV buyout fee and if there's fees for freight elevator access. I actually had to pay someone last fall $2,000 just to push an elevator button for a freight elevator for the access. And obviously there's restrictions and there's loading and loadout hours that you need to be aware of and you need to know in advance. You want to know what's included when we talk about house power. I was in a venue where when we contracted with a venue and the space, we assumed that power in the wall is included. Lo and behold, we were being charged per outlet as everything that was plugged in was a fee, right? You want to know labor minimums. You want to know what are some of the required union staffings that might be part of that venue. And then obviously not even talking about the Wi-Fi cost. That's another budget killer. And especially if you're streaming an event, I mean, we've learned that lessons the hard way. During COVID, post-COVID. But even now, like if you were to provide Wi-Fi to your attendees, and let me tell you, I went to an event recently as a speaker and they had no Wi-Fi for their attendees or their speakers. That felt like that's a human right at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a human right at this point.
I would say I'd break it down into two groups. I'm with you, Anca. I feel like on the site visit, so let's break this down. Like there's a laundry list of questions you need to ask. It can be somewhat overwhelming. On the site visit, I think that's the very first opportunity. And if you're not doing a site visit, it's the conversation with the hotel. First question I would ask is, do you have any in-house providers or vendors that are mandatory, sole providers that I don't have an option to work with? Sometimes it falls that rigging that you mentioned, Anca, power, internet. A lot of hotels are protecting their investment. They don't want anybody just plugging or rigging or hanging.
I mean, it's a liability, especially for rigging.
It's a safety issue. Same with the internet. A lot of them, the companies that they use, manage that system and invest money there. So ask about sole providers. That's the first thing. Then ask about fees on bringing in anybody from the outside. I would say ask who the in-house is. And if you have a relationship with that company, great. If you don't, ask to be introduced because they will tell you, along with the hotel, all of those answers. And Anca, I totally support asking what you mentioned, but then also the same questions that I kind of mentioned is, this is my budget. This is what I want to accomplish. This is the ballroom that I'm going to be in. Which way do we set it? What about daylight? What about screens? Are there any that are installed that I need to know of? Can you show me a rendering of what you did here in the last 3 months that's similar? Like, get specifics. And that's before you sign the hotel contract, right?
And that's tribal. That's tribal knowledge that, a lot of planners don't realize that AV production companies, if they work in many venues, they would have, or even if they're in-house, they would have a really good understanding of what's the best way to optimize the setup for your event so that it works for your group. You might have, a group that maybe is more people than you can allocate to the room with the AV. Another one out there is you're planning for this space that's maybe 800, banquet style, and then you didn't actually weigh in that AV will take a quarter of that space. And now your 800 is more like 700 or 650, right? So those are important questions, as Amanda, as you mentioned. And I think that's why I always insist, bring in your AV partner to the table way in advance. Don't make it the last item on your list that now, we have to talk about AV and now we have to figure this one out too.
The reason I always like to ask is like, why is AV last? So, and I've been a planner. I noticed, now I'm different, and Anca, you are too. We love tech. Like, we love audiovisual, we love production, we love the things. Not everybody does. So what I would say is, if you are a planner that is focused on the destination, that is fun to pick. Are we going to Miami or Fort Lauderdale, right? And then the hotels, it is great to do the site visit and the tour and the food and beverage and the destination and the offsites and all of that, and bringing in entertainment. Like, don't ignore AV. It is probably your third biggest budget item. So as a business owner, as a business individual, you have a responsibility to make sure that you're using that that budget efficiently and effectively. You cannot ignore a number 3 budget line item until 60 or 30 days out. It's just irresponsible. So even if it isn't your favorite thing to talk about, you could meet someone like Anca or somebody like me or somebody on our teams that love this stuff and just ask questions, share information. The more you learn about it, the earlier on, you can reserve equipment without having to subrent.
Yeah.
You can reserve labor without having to go to the unions. It is to your advantage to talk about this stuff early, to save money and to get better service. So even though it might not be your favorite thing, kind of push yourself to have those conversations early, because it'll be better for the attendee experience and for your own budget.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And while we're on the topic of budget, I mean, like, one of the things that is always floating around a planner's mind is ROI, return on investment, right? And good AV really is an investment, but you're investing in something that is going to transform your event from good to great. One of the things, though, that we've talked about, and you guys actually introduced me to this term, is ROE. Would you break that down?
Happy to. So our partners over at PCMA, we did a study with PwC, Encore, and we decided to ask event marketers at SEMA, one of their associations under PCMA, what are event marketers measuring as far as participant satisfaction? And we categorized it to 2 areas: ROI, return on investment, which I think we all know, right? You pay, like, let me give you an example. ROI, you put $100K into your event. It was a product launch. And then 6 months later, you see that your sales team sold 50% more product, and it equated to $1 million. So you can say, great ROI. We spent $100K on this event and our sales team did X. Perfect. It makes it more about the business, the business needs and business outcomes. When you think about ROE, which is defined as return on event, return on experience, or return on emotion, all 3 E's count. It's about tracking participant engagement with your brand, or their satisfaction, or the overall impact of that event on their experience. And many planners are already doing this. They're probably just not calling it ROE, but this is any of your satisfaction surveys that you're asking, how satisfied were you? Like, you go through chronologically all the things and you ask about satisfaction.
Right.
I think where you probably should think about those questions is, what are you looking to know? And I think that event marketers are looking to know, do you feel better about the company, the brand? Like, what's the delta of your behavior? Like, did you come in knowing on a 3 and now you're at an 8? That's a real return on the experience, because they know more about your company, or they like your company more, or they're have more of an affinity to your brand. So it's kind of like a net promoter score, if anybody's familiar with that term. But this shift towards ROE is putting a little bit more focus around the attendee experience. What's going to get them to buy more? What's going to get them to come back again to your conference? What's going to get them to be a brand advocate of your event? Yeah. Those are all really important things to measure as well.
Yeah, that's so important. And like, as you pursue ROI down the line, ROE matters so much, since it's really a synchronous relationship. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of like ROE, especially when it comes to emotion, when it's about the impact that your event has on how people feel, whether they feel included, whether they feel like they belong, they feel inspired, they feel connected. And I don't think ROE is there to replace ROI. I think it's just to deepen it, because at the end of the day, as you said, Amanda, emotion drives behavior, and emotion is what people remember when the lights go down and the badges are off.
So true. And we think technology, we know it does influence that, right? You can use a lot of engagement strategies, whether it's Lido or we have Polling Plus, to kind of engage some of your folks along the journey. And you're seeing that more and more now, is that people want to know about their ROE while it's happening, because you can change your event plan, right? you can give feedback to a speaker. You can change a session. You can see that this was packed. We should offer it again. We should take this group and maybe think about making them a micro community because they had such a great breakout session. So I think thinking about ROE and measuring it while you're in the event, I think, Sarah, that was one of your questions is like, how are people getting after this? And I think it's looking at your survey scores, but also don't wait till the end of the event to ask your attendees how they're feeling. Ask them in some form along the way so that you can kind of be measuring that and then crafting for a better outcome.
Absolutely. And there's two approaches at ROE that I want to highlight really quick on the AV side and the AI side. We talked a little bit about lighting and how it impacts emotion. Actually, back in 2018, I did the study on over 100 galas that I was working on. And we were kind of running them through this test of uplighting colors as people were walking into the space to determine if they feel one way or another. So in one instance, we would use red uplighting and see like what happens, what does it do to the audience? Or we would use amber, or we would use green, or we would use different shades of blue, or different things, right? And I was intentionally taking notes, and this was because I was actually preparing the study for a TED talk that I was gonna give on the importance of lighting on emotion and importance of event lighting. And it was very interesting to see how at a micro level you could impact an audience feeling and their engagement based on how you dressed up the room. Like if it was red, like people like were almost like on fire. You could see that spark, the passion, like just coming through, like everybody was like, yeah, let's do this, you know? Right. And then when you wanted to bring them down a little bit to calm them or say, you know, you want to change it to a little bit of amber, or if you want to uplift them, like there's strategy behind color that goes way beyond just, oh, it looks so pretty. There's actually a lot of neuroscience behind it. And then on the AI side, what I was going to mention here really quick, when we talked about personalization at scale and how it impacts people during sessions and you see the feedback, that's where the power of AI as it analyzes sentiment analysis, especially through AI tools that are readily available in apps, in platforms, and the technology that we now use, you can determine if this is a session that people will go to, or it's time to maybe change it to something else. Or maybe there is a specific type of format that your audience is more drawn to. And all of that is in the data. And if you can take that data and tell the story of how that will impact your audience, I think that's where the real ROE really comes from. And then ROI as a byproduct.
As someone who's not super familiar with how the AI and the AV merge together in this, how does that work? Like, how are you able to use, like, so you're saying it's apps and stuff and you can figure that out, but like, is that in like during the event, after the event, before the event? Like, where does that work, or how does that work together?
So two different things, right? The lighting part of the AV strategy, you can embed that into your planning. Like if you are doing, something activation, you're going to want to choose colors that one are on brand, but also emote certain things in people, right? And we had this other event where it was this journey of color, and based on like starting point all to the end point, and it was actually in conjunction with candles and smells, like all senses, not just the visual. You would carry them through this journey of tunnel, and there was visuals like LED walls everywhere, and they were just walking through this tunnel, and different scenes were complemented by different lighting scenes, smells, visuals to create this journey. So that was really like an experiment on all, like just taking in all the senses and see how technology can support that. Then on the AI side, on the technology side, there's a lot of data that you can collect pre-event, right? Like through reg pages, through engagement strategies, through content, all of that. Then during the event, as the event is happening, there's beacons, there is AI sensors, there's different things that you see the movement of your audience, where they gravitate towards, and then you can make decisions based on that. Now, to your question, Eming, I did wonder one, just practically, like let's just say you have a session and it's just the speaker just does not deliver. And you see people kind of slow slowly leaving, like, what do you do as an event organizer? Do you just like stop the session and be like, hello, everyone, we have another option for you. Let's go here. I don't think that really in real life, that would be something that anyone would want to do, right? So you would see them leaving slowly and, either like not paying attention, just being busy on their laptops. And that's data. That's visual data that you can gather just being an observer in the room, right? And then you can make a note for next time. Okay, now we know either the topic or the speaker or just overall the ambience was just not there. So you can make real decisions for your next session, the afternoon session. Maybe you change formats for the same topic, but you change formats for the afternoon, whatever, the format or the agenda allows.
So basically, if you're tracking the information of like, where are my people going during my event, I can use that information, put it through AI, and then it can kind of give me a sense about they like this, they didn't like this. And then that would be how you kind of figure that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's data technology banks out there that give you those dashboards live. You see that there's event intelligence. Event has a feature on that. Certain is another technology. Turnout has another technology. I mean, there's a lot of options out there depending of, what tech stack you actually use for your event. And then you can get the data like in real life, for your event. So make those decisions strategically, but at the same time, without, interrupting much the flow. Because like many times, like in AV, right? If something goes bad and down on behind the scenes at the tech table, as long as you keep your smile and you keep things under control and you're collected, nobody in the audience knows that just like there's fire that you're putting out behind the scenes. And that's the point. Like you're really going to put out the fires and nobody needs to know. Maybe you and the client know that we just like went through this emergency of a breakdown of something, of a piece of technology, or the slides were not the right slides, or who knows, we pressed the wrong play button on the wrong playback video, whatever that was, right? As long as everything is collected and smiles, the audience won't know like that you just like literally saved the show behind the scenes. And that's the point. AV is supposed to be invisible. Actually, I just wrote a post about that on my LinkedIn page today. As long as AV is invisible, that means you've done your job really well. The moment something starts like creaking, you're like, something is wrong.
I think you want to focus on the AV enhancing the experience, right? Because I think when I notice really good lighting, I feel better. When I notice really crisp projection, I was like, I can see the details on that LED wall and I love it. I hear no echo in the room. It's like when you notice it, it's a distraction from the actual experience. And so you miss the message, you miss the vibe. You're texting someone, oh my gosh, like what's the echo? So like you're just out of it. So you're right. I think it's supposed to be an immersive experience. And then all of those sensors are activated together so that you kind of feel lost in the moment. And that's truly kind of the magic of when it all comes together.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm interested in learning more about AI and like how people are using this specifically in the AV space. I mean, how common is this to be using AI to be collecting this kind of data?
I'll give my 2 bits. What we're seeing from our customers is that, and we ran a study because we were asking them like, how much are you using this? And it was just of our customer base. And I would say about 40% said they're dabbling in it. And about 15% of customers, association, corporate, third parties across are using it. So when we dove into that 15% they're using it, they are using a lot of it for content curation. So I don't know how many of you know Wordly, but it provides the live event captioning.
Right.
So that's wonderful for inclusive meetings, right? Because I do think that that's super helpful for folks that are hearing impaired or just prefer to absorb information like that. So that's good. But then you can take all of that and you can take that journal session or that breakout, whatever it was, and you have a transcript. And so feed that transcript into AI, pick your vehicle. You can do a blog post. You can do an article. You can do a white paper. You can do social media posts about that. It gives you so much content. And so the way I think about it is AV is an investment. You invent technology, but think about how you can stretch that ROI out. It's not just happening right then. You've got content now. Maybe you got it because you wanted to stream it because you had folks all over the world. Well, now you have actual video recording. So what are you doing with that? And there's AI technology that can help you slice, dice it, and turn it into content for your company to keep that always on event so that they're thinking about your brand. And if it's a membership organization, you've got content for days, weeks, months that you spin out from that big annual event that you invested in. Now you actually have something to show for it all year round. So that's what we're seeing. I think the folks that are dabbling in it, it's more around brainstorming. It's those thought starters where you put in like, hey, show me this, show me that. I need some content ideas. What are the most popular sessions with the pharmaceutical group X? Like you can use it for brainstorming and data curation to get you started. But the smart planners that I'm seeing are using it for content, extending content.
I remember going to an event and you guys had like a giant 3D box situation.
A hologram.
Yes. That was really cool. That was really cool.
Super fun. I mean, this is, Anca, I'm sure you've seen it too. It's, how you can basically have someone presenting in one studio and then it appears in a 3D format. We use it a lot for networking where you get in, you actually stand in front of the screen and then your cartoon or your anime self appears in the box. So know that some of these holoboxes can be used for, really broadening how many speakers you can use, but you can also turn it on to make it a fun reception thing. So this is where we think about doubling up on your investment. Yeah, multi-use. And so then, that could be a big spend item. But if you're using it as a networking thing or a greeting when people walk in and for your speaker, it's like 3 uses for the price of 1.
And I think I want to go back a little bit to the AI report that Amanda mentioned, because this was one report, right? And EIN actually put out a different one as well, which is Event Industry News. And I just happened to have contributed to that as well. And it felt like most companies that are involved with AI and agencies in the event space have done it for less than 2 years, but only 10% have enough experience to say that they're using it beyond idea generation, content creation, agenda planning, and surveys. And some of the top functions that AI is getting more usage as we get beyond that dabbler stage is data analytics and personalization and customer service. And both reports, as I was comparing them, and thank you, Amanda, for sharing that, confirms that AI is first adopted in this content-heavy, low-risk task, but there's so much opportunity beyond that. But there's some barriers as well, like training, cost, privacy concerns, and even integration challenges. And cross-functional teams, they're really interested to want to do more, but sometimes they're waiting on leadership to either provide them with the solutions or the enterprise-grade solutions, or to even give them the go. And while confidence in AI varies highly by the role that you have, there's definitely hope because many senior leaders and event directors are leading those AI conversations and implementations that go beyond just content creation. They go into strategy, not just tool usage, right? Because by now I'm sure we've all used ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Copilot. I mean, you name it, right? But really, when you think about what's the next phase, right? When we talk about how can we incorporate AI at our company, organization, agency in a strategic way, that's where we need to look across teams. We need to look across workflows. If you don't have a workflow and you're trying to throw AI at it, you're not going to get the same result. So I guess both reports really point to kind of the same friction. You have fragmented adoption. You kind of have unclear ownership of who owns AI. And then there's still a lack of training and integration into real workflows. And that's where a lot of my work actually through my workshops, my speaking engagements, the content that I create is focused on that because I want to empower our event planners to look at AI as strategically, but also as an extension of themselves versus, AI is here to take after my job. I mean, we've heard that enough. Like, let's do something about it now. That's where I feel like there's so much opportunity. And I hope teams look at it from a empowerment standpoint, not just an overwhelm kind of stuck, because there's definitely no shortage of AI tools out there. I'm the first one to recognize that sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that since last night there's been like 20 more. But there's definitely a shortage of connected systems that work together in a way that it's meant to be. And I think that's where the power of AI will showcase if we can integrate it into our workflows in a strategic way so that the outcome is that will actually leave a business impact and scale.
I'm curious, where do you guys see AI/AV being in like 5 years from now? Because tech moves so fast and so quickly. Like, what do you guys hope happens? Like, what do you want to see? Like, do you want to see like beyond holograms? Like, what do you guys hope happens in the next like 5 to 10 years?
Well, I hope AI helps makes it easier for planners. I just feel like there's so much on their plates that they have to balance, that any way that we can save them time on any of the hospitality elements that they're booking for meetings, whether it's curating content, if it's managing speakers and presentations. I know there's this stuff out there. If it's integrating, like Anca said, your registration platform with your advertising, like if it's more integration so that you can just use the AI vehicle to put in your data once and it goes to all of your partners. It goes to all of your suppliers. It's just a time saver. Like that's where I hope we're going, is more connectivity and more collaboration and less competition, because I think we'll just be able to have better events. We'll be able to lighten the loads, I think, of all of us, that are planning events, and we'll be able to focus on the fun stuff, which is the creativity, the connection, the having experiences that, make a positive impact in the world, right? So I hope that efficiency is kind of the outcome of the progress with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think AI in AV production, I think somewhat is trailing behind, at least from my point of view, the way I see it. And because sure, there's content creation, but when it comes to actually, the RFP process, when it comes to making sure that this RFP that just got approved and this list of gear actually is consolidated with the inventory that you have in your warehouse and the labor that's available, it brings you this dashboard of data so that do I need to, right at one site, you can say, do I need more labor? Do I need to sub-rent? What do I need to make this event happen? I think we're kind of missing those pieces. It's not all that integrated. A lot of AV production companies, they use one type of workflow or one kind of system, but it's not necessarily all together integrated with other systems or their project management system or their sales system or the marketing system. So that's why it feels very fragmented, but we are looking and moving forward towards this agentic AI world, right? And this idea of workflows will become so important, because then you can take different systems and connect them together and provide your AI agent coordinator the information that it needs to have multiple agents do different things in different systems and interconnect them. So it will definitely be more of that as we move into 2026. And out of all of it, hopefully it's not the idea that we need to replace the people. We just need to replace some of the bad jobs and create some efficiencies. We still need people in the loop. We still need experts. We still need that domain expertise. I can't tell you how many times actually I've been at war with ChatGPT just to create some AV production relevant content, because it doesn't have the domain expertise that I have, the experience that I have. So I'll go on literally training it. By the way, when you ask, what are the top tips that a planner should know about AV? Going and buying a microphone as a backup is not your first tip. Last time I checked,
Good job, Anca.
Event planner went to buy a microphone.
You need to help AI learn that bringing your own equipment to, and I know that budgets prevent a lot of folks from doing that, but you assume so much liability and risk when you do it, because technology fails all the time. I mean, it was failing with my camera just like an hour ago, right? So I feel like you want a professional, especially in those really important moments, that's going to come in and say, I'll either replace it or I know the fix. I work with this every day. This often happens. We're going to do this and we'll get you set. But when you're alone and you're buying the microphone and bringing in the flat screen from Best Buy, you're alone. You're really alone trying to get it all integrated. And you got to do 5 other things, with the people who didn't read the registration details and the housing list that needs to be updated. So I would say, yes, please, ChatGPT, don't tell anybody to be buying microphones.
I promise you, Amanda, I have so many stories to tell from real life experience with people doing that. And I'm like, what were you thinking? And now what?
What are you going to do? I know.
You don't even have the XLR cable. Where are we going to plug this in? How does this work? Just in your mind. I'm just curious to know.
That sounds like many talks I have with people in my life.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think there's also challenges that come with that opportunity. But I think where I'm coming from is staying positive. And I was just thinking, like, if you're thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, what does this landscape will look like? Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, I am not a doomsday, a narrative scenario type of planner. I want to see the positive and the opportunities that are out there. So I'm looking at AI from the same lens, and I'm looking at it also from a tactical lens. Like, how can I apply it to make my life easier, to make me more productive, more focused on the task that I should be at versus just squirreling around and doing all those things that there's no need for me to do them if there's some kind of an automation workflow that I can build for myself to support that.
I really appreciate you guys, because as someone who went to grad school for film, it was mostly men, and I wasn't allowed to like do my own thing because I had to get like help from like 5 people, but I lied and did it all myself. So you guys really make me feel like I'm on the right path in life. So thank you both for, being so honest and raw about like what's real and what's interesting and what folks and events need to know, because these are things they should think about. AV and AI are the future of events. Like, you need it to make your event interesting and memorable, or else you might not have the same people there next year if you have.
And you're not in it alone. I mean, I think Anca and I, hopefully through this podcast, like there are partners out there that love this stuff, that live this stuff. So I think your questions on, what are our customers not thinking about or not asking, and I think it is just, contact us early. As soon as you start thinking about an event, like, be thinking about what kind of technology is going to enhance what you're trying to do, and then pick a partner, whether it's the in-house or a production partner, that will help you accomplish those goals and keep your budget in mind, because we love this stuff. And so we're going to bring, and our teams are going to bring, the most up-to-date information and be real about budgets and technological things that you need to be thinking about, like power and rigging and Wi-Fi. I mean, those conversations should be had early. Yeah. So I think, just to your point, you were alone kind of doing all this stuff in film. Well, in today's world, you are not alone. And especially with other women that are trying to bring better representation to our field. And hopefully you'll see more and more of them as you have your events executed in the future.
Yeah, and to echo what Amanda said, in AV, the stakes can be really high, and that's why you need teams that listen well and adapt and solve fast. And that involves diverse crews that bring a broader perspective and a stronger problem-solving skills, not to mention a more inclusive experience for your attendees. And I've personally walked away from roles where I felt I had to change who I was just to succeed in that role. And that's no longer acceptable. We really need to design spaces where authenticity is the strength and not the liability. And it was mentioned earlier, obviously, Amanda is strong in communication, but communicate early, often, and without assumptions. Bring your AV team in early, your production liaison, your technical director, whomever you work with, have them be part of those planning conversations before contracts are being signed and before diagrams are being locked in. That one step alone, I have seen it, how it can save thousands of dollars in change orders and tech workabouts. And obviously, when you're show ready and show mode, then trust that AV team. Another one that's kind of like rubs me the wrong way is like, you brought us here for a reason, and now you don't want to trust that we're going to do this well, right? Trust your experts, trust your AV team, and you don't have to know it all, as it was said earlier. You just need to ask the right questions. What don't I know yet? Yes, I may have a lot of information, but what is it that I don't know yet? And I think that mindset alone can create a space for collaboration, and it can also save, thousands of dollars, as well as a lot of events, more than any other checklist could.
I agree. And another question to think about asking is, is there anything that you're worried about? This is a great way to identify risk. And your partner in any space in hospitality could say, listen, I know you had budget cuts, but we don't have a microphone. We don't have a backup microphone, or we are going to be using this in 2 ways so just so that you're aware, like, that is the choice we made, but that is a little bit where I'm concerned. Or you insisted on bringing in your own laptop. I'm a little concerned, about the integration of that with our equipment. So just ask that question. It doesn't mean it's going to change the direction, but I think it'll help you understand, is that a risk I'm willing to take with the CEO? No, I'm not. Add on the backup microphone. You may have made that decision and maybe you've saved some money between when you did the first scope of work and now, and you're like, we have it now. Like we actually underspent on our food and beverage with the hotel last night. And so we do have it. So I think just, know that it's okay to ask questions each day and identify risks so that along the way, you've made some choices, but have things changed where you want to maybe re-identify or reassess some of the decisions you've made.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Well, I hope our audience really listened to all of that because this is essential, I think, for the process.
Many bright ideas for these listeners to add to their toolbox. So thank you both so much for being here. This was wonderful.
Good. Thanks for inviting us and having us. Good. And we had a great conversation, which I hope is valuable for others too. And Anca, it's wonderful to meet another passionate woman in technology. So I love it.
Thank you. Same. The sentiment is real on both sides. And for anyone that I think that wants to connect with us, I'm very big on sharing knowledge freely. I do that through my podcast. I do it through every single post twice a day on my LinkedIn pages. I have about 5 of them for anyone that's curious because I like to live in buckets. I do AV production. I do the AI strategy. I also do the Fit for Events framework, which is my passion for empowering our event planners and teams with wellness strategies. And if you are the biggest event that you're ever going to have, how are you going to treat that? How are you treating yourself, your well-being, and your mental and physical and emotional resilience in making sure that you can then serve everyone else? So I create a lot of content around that. And then, if you have questions about anything and everything, AV, AI, for events related, I am a open book. Feel free to reach out.
I agree. Yeah, same. We're here. And if you want to hit the Encore website, we've got case studies up there. We've got blog articles. We have an article around ROE and ROI. So that was something that you wanted to look at. And we also have some great stuff around immersive experiences and in talking about some of the things Anca and I mentioned on lighting and sensory, like activating all senses, all of that. It's helpful not just for your education, but I would say use those tools to take inside to your internal stakeholders and use them to get more budget, because equipment is not, unfortunately, going down in the state of the world that we live in right now. So I think it's arming yourself with data and thoughts and kind of these white papers and case studies on how other companies have leveraged their AV budget to get real business results. You might not have that right at the tip of your tongue, but I think going in and asking for things to help business objectives is the way to get to a bigger budget. And so if there's any tools on our website that can help you do that, we put them out there so that everybody could use.
Absolutely. And if we were to talk about tools, especially AI tools, I've actually custom built a custom GPT for AV production that's freely available for those that have questions.
Everything, haven't you?
I mean, I've only trained it for the last 3 years. So it's a great resource if you have questions, about maybe comparing side by side different proposals and not seeing between the lines because you're not a gearhead and you don't understand what all these line items mean.
Right.
Great point.
It makes some sense. But even more than just making some sense of the gear, I think equipping yourselves with the right questions to ask. Once you have the GPT analyze those proposals and say, what are some of the questions that I need to ask my provider? Or what are some of the red flags? Or what are some of the things I should be aware? Maybe there's not enough loading time, or maybe there's not enough loadout time. Maybe we're getting burned and churned during this part and we're not realizing. Those are things that you can do in advance, just in a pre-event phase. And as Amanda has shared, the tools created by Encore and the many, many blogs and content that I create myself, the information is there at your fingerprint. Right now, honestly, you don't have excuses anymore because there's so much knowledge being shared.
That's fair. Totally. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both again so much. We really appreciate your time and effort you put into this conversation. I learned, again, more than I usually do in most cases. So thank you again both for everything you said today.
Our pleasure.
Well, Sara, I will never be an AV, what's a word? King,
professional.
queen, professional. I mean, I can turn on and I can unplug my Wi-Fi to make it not slow. That's the extent of it. These women have built their businesses off knowing all the things. And I just tip
and the amount of things
my invisible hat to them.
Seriously, absolutely. I'm tipping my invisible hat to them too, because they really are experts in this. And this is an episode I think you are going to want to study up on. Keep it in your back pocket. Make sure you download it. Listen to it on the plane, because as Eming said in the beginning, no matter how many times I listen to this episode, I think I'm always going to learn something new each go around, even though I was there recording live with them. Yeah. Absolutely amazing people. And we hope you learned something interesting, beneficial, and mad respect to the AV teams in the events world.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to Smart Start Radio, a Smart Meetings production. Interested in being our next guest? Connect with us at editor@smartmeetings.com.